online friends? What made you instantly regret it? Back in high school, I had a tough situation at home which made me struggle with talking to people, so I turned to gaming in my room, and that's where I met another girl named Halia. We became best friends, and during summer break, Halia had this bright idea of spending a week in her parents' outdoor cabin to celebrate her 18th birthday there. We drove over to her cabin, and it was a great vibe until the moment we arrived. It was run down with cobwebs all over the place. It made me wonder if we would be safe staying there. But when I told Halia my concerns, she just laughed them off and said I was acting like a typical city girl and that I should calm down. As we stepped inside, I felt even more uneasy. Halia and I settled down, and she popped open a bottle of wine she brought and urged me to chug the cup, so I did. But I saw an unusual sparkle in her eye before she smirked and barely took a sip of her own wine. That ended up being the last of what I remember until about 3 a.m. that night when I woke up cold in a bedroom with a single reading light on. I yelled for Halia, but there was no response, and the door was locked from the outside when I tried opening it. The panic immediately set in, and I started freaking out and yelling for Halia to help me out. That's when I heard her walk over to the door, and she said, "Calm down, I'm doing this to protect you." Well, that just about set me over the edge, and I started full on trying to break down the door, but nothing worked. I ended up crying myself back to sleep, and by the time morning came around, there was a plate with eggs and bacon on my bed. Next to it was a handwritten note that said, "I'm sorry for locking you in this room last night. I wasn't on my medication, and I promise not to do it again. I'm waiting for you in the living room." I immediately ran to the door, and surprisingly, it was unlocked. As soon as I stepped out, Halia was sitting in the living room with a huge smile on her face. She greeted me before grabbing my hand and pulling me down next to her. My heart beat hard again, and I asked her why she locked me in that room last night. And once again, this creepy look appeared on her face. I had a terrible feeling wash over me, so I excused myself to the bathroom, and I watched Halia closely. As soon as I could tell she wasn't looking, I crept over to the kitchen area where she threw the car keys on the counter before snatching them and sneaking over to the front door. Just as I unlocked it, Halia noticed I was trying to sneak out, and she screamed before leaping to her feet and making her way towards me. My heart was beating out of my chest as I bolted towards her car and got in, and locked it right before she got to the door. She started slamming her fist on the windshield, and at that point I was crying as I told her I knew she tainted my drink last night, and I knew she locked me in the room. She didn't say anything that made sense other than a jumble of being lonely and me being the only friend she'd connected with in a while now, so she wanted to keep me to herself for as long as she could. I just about had it at that point, and I knew there was no way out of the situation, and I would just have to make my escape in her car. So I turned it on and started my way towards the main road, while Halia kept throwing herself at the car. Once I got on the road, I broke down in relief and called the cops who met me at the first rest stop. I explained the entire situation, and as soon as they ran the plates on Halia's car, their expression shifted. They sat me down as they explained the plates on that car were linked to someone they'd been looking for quite some time. Halia wasn't who she claimed she was. She was 10 years older, and she was a mentally deranged woman from across the country who had been previously arrested for luring and being creepy to younger girls. I was lucky to have escaped her because her last victims had ended up in pretty ugly situations. The cops drove me to the hospital to have me checked after I told them about the wine situation from the night before, and I told them where to go looking for Halia. Long story short, her face was the headline on the papers the next day, and I spent the rest of that summer in therapy.